This is an important slide. This is what's happening to life expectancy in Australia, and you'll see that it just keeps getting better. And this is unprecedented. We've never seen this before. So here you are, you're having little boys and little girls being born, and they just keep on expecting to live longer and longer. A WAG actually said that for every week you live, you gain another free weekend to live longer. It's almost like that. 2 years for about every decade since the late 19th century. This is what currently, on conservative figures, a little boy who's born in 2015 would live to 81 years. A little girl who was born in 2015, a baby girl, would live to 85. If you model what I just showed you, those figures are wrong. What would happen is that a little boy born about now would live to 92 years of age, and a little girl would live to 94 years of age, just assuming that what's been happening to date is going to continue to happen. This is what Australia's population pyramid looked like in 1971, and there were lots and lots of young people and hardly any old people. 2016, the population pyramid doesn't look like a pyramid anymore. It looks like me. There's middle-age spread. You see how we've got the middle-age spread here? And look at this. This is the exciting time. Hopefully I'll still be here to enjoy it. In 2046, there'll be 36 million Australians, and I'll be up here somewhere, and some of you will be here too. But just look at the number of us. Isn't that wonderful? Isn't that wonderful? And people often make this a sad news story or a bad news story. We're all going to be ruined. We actually have had 3 intergenerational reports showing that the world is going to be terrible and scaring us to adopt fiscally appropriate measures. I actually take an entirely different view of this. I think that the population aged over 85, you just look what's happening to that, my business is booming, right? If you're a geriatrician, just look at that. Jerry Harvey would love this. If we were talking about his business model for furniture and he could see this, his eyes would glint. Isn't this wonderful? Though some people seem to get a bit scared about this, so I just like to point this out. This is our population pyramid in 2031. This is the UK population pyramid now, right now. And it's identical. So we are, in 2031, we're going to be like the UK is now. So that's a fair way. This is the UK now, and this is Australia. Where would you want to live? Really? No choice. But this is what's different. And this is what's happening, which is changing because people are living longer. The diseases that they're getting and they're dying from are changing. Heart disease is still important, but you'll notice that dementia is the second commonest cause of death currently. And when you look at it, about half the people who die from dementia, they're dying from the disease itself, and half of them are dying with the disease. This week, there was some more news that dementia is now the leading cause of death in women in Australia. It's overtaken heart disease in women, not in men yet. And so this is the sort of things that older people have. They have different things. They have diabetes, they do have heart disease, they have high blood pressure, they have a lot of arthritis, quite a lot of osteoporosis, particularly if you're a woman, and genitourinary system disease, bladder problems. The other thing that's changing is that the amount of lives lost to disability, so they're adjusting for the fact that when you're disabled you're not having a full life, the lives of years lost to disability have now taken over the lives of years lost to premature death. So disability is becoming the dominant form of burden of health in Australia and many other developed countries. Now, I and others, we do work on ageing well. And I just really wanted to remind you that there's not a real good idea of what ageing well is. between usual and successful ageing, but this is the sort of thing that people talk about. The absence of chronic disease and disability, high cognitive and physical functioning, and active engagement with life. The red stuff, active engagement with life, doesn't actually work, because you can be actively engaged with life when you're really quite disabled. It's almost irrelevant, really, to the rest of it. But I would make the point you have to be alive to age well. If you're dead, you haven't aged well. Now, this is some work. So as Loretta said, I've done lots of different things. This is some of the stuff we've done, which is looking at social connectedness and predictors of successful ageing. And we found a healthy lifestyle, maintenance of healthy weight, but social connectedness didn't count, at least not the way we measured it. It's actually the perception of social connectedness that's important, not the number of times you get to see people. In fact, if you think about some of the people you see, you can work out why it doesn't help you at all, really. This is just to show that in Australia and the rest of the world, we're very concerned about dementia. This is work from my colleagues in Cambridge and other places in the UK showing that the incidence of dementia, age-specific incidence of dementia, has decreased by 20% over the last 20 years. This is mirrored in many other parts of the world. Doesn't mean we're not going to have a lot more people with dementia, because there's a lot more old people. And the biggest risk factor for getting dementia is growing old, and the best way to avoid dementia is to die young. But it seems to be. In Australia, of course, we've no idea what's happening because we don't have any good data on dementia prevalence in the community, and we haven't done a decent study since 1990. There we go. Now, there's lots of ways of approaching the diseases and problems of old age, and right now we're in the middle of trying to work out what we want to do. Personalised medicine, looking at focusing on prevention on people on very high risk, or do you just do it for everybody? So the sort of things that you might do, you might just look at things like blood pressure treatment, vitamins, physical activity, smoking cessation, treat everybody the same and hopefully prevent the population. Or you could try and target people with a single disease process like Alzheimer's disease, give them an expensive drug that will be highly toxic but may stop them getting dementia. That's the sort of approach we're sort of debating right now in all sorts of diseases. This is some work that led by my colleague Professor Osvaldo Almeida from UWA. He's a psychogeriatrician, and this is work showing that smoking is associated with a decrease in the brain cells in the areas that are commonly associated with Alzheimer's disease. And when you get people to stop smoking, their brains and their cognitive function get better. So it's good, you know, this prevention stuff might have something in it. You could even show pretty pictures of brains getting better with it. Now, the last 2 minutes, Kate Smith, who's my colleague, she's the one over here next to Professor Dawn Bessarab, who runs the Centre for Aboriginal Medical and Dental Health. She couldn't be here, so Kate said, could I put in 2 more slides? I've said I've got plenty of time, what's the problem? So she's wanted to talk a little bit about the Good Spirit, Good Life project, which is a project for Aboriginal people, developing a quality of life package for older Aboriginal people living in urban and rural regions. It's at this stage a qualitative study looking at the factors that are associated with quality of life in older Aboriginal people, and they've done some preliminary work, and there's quite a lot of differences between what Aboriginal elders find is important to their quality of life as opposed to non-Aboriginal people. End of life planning, the last part of your life put into mending bridges and solving problems. Well, that's not so different to non-Aboriginal people, isn't it, really? But there was a lot more about teaching younger people culture and intergenerational activities. But there's also some particular aspects in Aboriginal people which are associated predominantly with Aboriginal older people from a particular generation, and particularly the stolen generation, where there's a lot more to be involved than factors that we would normally find in older people. And I think I've just finished. Worldwide ageing is unprecedented. It's never happened before. We've never seen this number of old people. It's fantastic. The evidence that we have acquired on single conditions may not apply to older individuals with multiple problems. And we'll pose not only challenges but opportunities with all those older people ready to see geriatricians and maybe do other things. There you go.
Thank you. Questions, comments?
Frightened.
Oh, they'll warm up. They've just had lunch. Yes.
So, what is the definition of successful aging?
Well, that definition is not bad. Successful ageing is that you shouldn't have any major illnesses, no physical or cognitive dysfunctioning. And yeah, I think that's probably it. That's the one I would hang on to, because I wouldn't talk about the engagement, because you see commonly people profoundly disabled who continue to have successful lives. You know, just look at all those Paralympians, for example, profoundly disabled.
There were two more hands, so we'll hear both of those questions, yes?
I'm very interested in your work that you've done on social connectedness and the predictors of successful ageing. Is there any key points that you can share with us about that?
Yeah, the social connectedness, the social support, social engagement stuff is a real dog's breakfast of literature. So there's a lot of papers, not just our work, and lots of people. And summarising a huge literature, you know, all this stuff about, you know, marriage is important, but divorce might be better, things like this, all in the literature, you know, all the stuff is reading newspapers, socially connected or not, you know. So inevitably what you come down to is that people's perception of their social connectedness is important, not necessarily the hours of what's actually happening. So that's the perception. And then you talk about the quality of the social engagement, whatever that is.
Other questions? Disappeared? Well, that's actually good because we are out of time. Thank you very much, Leon. That was wonderful.